Oh no!
It's a good job we're friends, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my god, we've just been talking for like 45 minutes and we weren't recording. Oh wow, at least we've got a vague idea of what we're going to talk about now.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Hi everyone. Do you want to do the intro?
Okay.
I'll press start.
Hello, welcome to Beyond Authentic Witchcraft, the meandering magical podcast that sometimes gets recorded.
Oh, all right. Yes, all right. There was a lot going on. So, as you all know, I'm Lisa.
I'm Neil.
And we're in the flesh. And this is probably part of the reason why I didn't realize that we weren't recording, because we just started filming this. And as we've already said, this is going to be a really relaxed podcast episode anyway, because we've got a vague idea of what we were going to talk about, which is the resurgence of witchcraft. After the huge success of Agatha and Wicked and all of this stuff, where is witchcraft headed, and what do we see it kind of, which direction do we see it going in? So at least we've had a chance to gather our thoughts a little bit. So, right, you haven't seen Agatha.
No.
But for anybody who has, who also hasn't seen Agatha, Agatha All Along is a series based on a Marvel character from the comics, all about witchcraft. And it links in with WandaVision, and it ties into the wider Marvel universe, but you don't need to know any of that. I was saying this to you earlier. The lore of it, you don't need to know. So you don't need to worry about, have you seen these 15 series and 4 films, and you don't need any of that, because at its heart, it is literally just a story of a thrown together coven going on the witch's road and having some adventures. Now, within that, there's obviously the sort of spooky special effecty, ooh, look, I'm waving my hands and here's a glittery trail of energy. But there's also a lot of actual sort of witchcraft. There's one bit where they have to make a potion and they have to get various items, and they haven't got this, so they're going to go and get that instead, and can we make it work? And it's all, there's various different things along the trials that they have throughout the series, where it is recognizable witchcraft. And certainly for me as a tarot reader, one of the characters is a divination witch, and she uses tarot, and how she uses it and the way it's done is absolutely on board with what my understanding of tarot is. And so that's kind of like a really nice combination of, yes, the Hollywood, ooh, look at this, and I've got beams of energy coming out of my hands and all of that, mixed with genuine, decent magic. And then you've got things like Wicked, which again, I know you haven't seen and have no interest in seeing. But that is huge. It's like one of the biggest movies of the year, and is all about the witches from the Wizard of Oz. And so you've got lots of people that are going to be interested in witchcraft coming from these two properties. But then it goes bigger than that, because in the media they're reporting now that actually there could be a second series of Agatha in some way, shape or form, and Wicked's already got a part 2 coming out next year or the year after. So we're in this period now where we know for the next 2 or 3 years we're going to be talking witchcraft. And then Harry Potter's coming back as well.
Yeah, they're doing a TV series. I think it's 2006 it's supposed to be released.
2006. 2026.
Yes.
Yes, that one.
Yes, that one.
We've just taken 20 years off because we're old as fuck. Yeah, so they're doing like a whole new Harry Potter-y thing, and I know they've renamed the Wizarding World website is now just harrypotter.com or something. I don't know what they've done, but anyway, they're doing a whole thing, so that's coming back. So what's next?
Yeah, because I mean, I was saying to you how there's going to be a gap between, obviously Wicked's just been released, and if they're going to do a second part to it, there's going to be people in between that time kind of getting antsy for like the next one. So I'm imagining that there'll be things to kind of tide people over, so people might be coming out with their own takes on their witchcraft.
I bet there's a lot of studios rushing things into development that are like, oh, let's milk this cash cow.
Or things that weren't being picked up before, and now people are like, oh, actually, yeah, we'll have a go at that. And because witches are, you know,
de rigueur.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things because we are old as fuck. We both remember when Buffy first started, which then led to I can't remember, was Craft before Buffy? I think the films probably came out about the same time, but then Buffy hit big time on TV.
Yeah.
And then Charmed came out, basically the Craft, the series, or very, very similar, but obviously bouncing off of the CW appeal and things off Buffy. And then that led to all sorts of other stuff, kind of, and witchcraft being in the zeitgeist again. And I know that it's something that, because we are old, you and I both remember, and I've told the story before, about someone coming into a witchcraft shop I worked in and saying that they wanted something that would create fire in the palm of their hands. And it was like, okay, we can do that. It's £1.50, please. Except it was a Zippo and it was 25 quid. But it's like every time you get a massive Hollywood version of witchcraft, you do get people that come into the craft and have that Hollywood idea.
Yeah.
And they expect, you know, as you're going, oh, things are falling everywhere. But as you're going, visualize moving the energy, they're expecting there to be a purple glowing sparky light in their hands. And when that doesn't appear, they get all disappointed, or you know, they want to have sparks and things. Can you see that happening again?
See, I don't see that happening again, because I think now, and I don't know whether it is because we've seen so much witchcraft in films and TV and stuff now, that when people have had experiences like going into witchcraft shops and been saying that that's not a thing, or they've kind of got an interest in witchcraft from watching those things, and they've gone online or read books or whatever, and they kind of went, oh no, that's fantasy. Witchcraft as a religion practice is a completely different thing. That's just Hollywood. And I feel like now, especially kind of, you know, there's people are kind of online more and researching stuff more like online, and I feel like the majority of people know that that's that. I don't feel like, I mean, I don't imagine, and I don't know anyone who does work in a witchcraft shop to know whether or not there are still people who are like, those two things, oh, that is how it is. Like, I can't imagine that happening now. I really can't.
We were in a witchcraft shop today. We should have asked them.
Yeah.
If we'd thought more about this episode, this was always going to be. So Neil wasn't planning on being in Leeds this weekend. But hey, you are. So we were like, oh, let's film together. So yeah, next time we go in, because like potentially in a couple of weeks' time, we'll pop back in and ask them and basically go, do people come in wanting to like have sparkly dresses like Wicked?
Yeah.
So what's next then? What do you think? Assuming that all the Hollywood executives are like, oh, this witchcraft stuff, we can make some money here. What are the next IPs that you think that are going to go? Because we've had Sabrina taking it from, look at me, I'm so goofy, and oops, I dropped a flan. Boof. Oh, now my flan's fixed again. And oh, this boy doesn't want to kiss me. Boof. Now he kisses me. Oh, it's gone from that with a bad puppet cat occasionally. Have a look at some of those Sabrina. I've rewatched some of them.
Mhm.
Some of them, that cat looks like a bad pound shop, like Halloween toy. They are really bad in some of the shots. It's horrendous. And then it came back as like, oh, it's dark and spooky and dangerous and scary. Like, what else could they do? Because we've had Bewitched come back as a terrible film. Like what other IPs do you think they could milk?
Oh, I don't know. But I was thinking about how, because I'm a massive Hellblazer fan of the comics. And throughout the years, they've attempted to do it. I mean, obviously there was the Keanu Reeves Constantine film. Completely got it wrong. Still a fun film. Wasn't at all like Hellblazer. They just used the character. And then they did a TV series of it.
I was going to say, I thought they did a TV show.
Yeah, they did a TV series of it. It was really, really good. Really spot on. I really enjoyed it. Got cancelled. And then I think Constantine himself was kind of popped up in other like animated films and stuff like that to do with DC.
Oh, it's DC.
It's DC. So
right.
yeah, Hellblazer is about like a magician, basically, just like a British magician. Very kind of light urban, very, kind of gritty. He's a kind of like bit of a cheeky lad, does a lot of kind of off the cuff, kind of chaosy type magic.
I can see why you'd like it.
So yeah, that was a massive influence on my practice in general, was John Constantine. Anyway, so because they've had so many different cracks at it over the years and it's always fallen flat, and the really good series that they did got cancelled, and you kind of wonder, because of a lot of things, comics being adapted, and maybe it's time for Hellblazer to actually be done.
Do you think they would? Because I think part of the problem, I know we're going a bit off subject, but part of the problem, I think, with the DCU or EU or whatever it was, with all the superheroes, was that it was too dark and grimy.
Yeah.
And so I don't know whether DC would go that dark, because this is one of the things that Marvel got incredibly right with Agatha. Yes, there were dark bits. Yes, she killed lots and lots of people. But actually, she was almost a nice character at times. There was like redeeming qualities about her, where you could kind of forget, oh yeah, she's murdered countless people. And there was also lots of bright colors and fun elements and musical numbers and all the rest. So it and especially again with Wicked, which is all, it's not as bright colors. They've desaturated the colors. You know what I mean?
Desaturated.
Yeah. So it's a lot muted. But even that, all of the marketing is bright pink and bright green, and it's very, very in your face. Do you think they'd do a Constantine? Because that is very dark.
Yeah, but I think kind of we're at a time period now where we tend to like gritty things, and we kind of like morally grey characters, and just kind of quite complicated characters. So I feel like I think we're in the right time period for, say, like a series. I think it would work better as a series, Hellblazer, but it would be very interesting to see how the magic is handled in Hellblazer. Like if they were to do a series of it, like I'd love to see it. I'd like to even see a really shit version. I wouldn't mind. I really wouldn't mind, because I just enjoy that character so much. So they can have a go. Because I mean, come on, Keanu Reeves, Constantine. I still enjoyed that, and that was nothing like it. So
I don't think I've seen it still. No. It keeps coming up as one of those films. I'm like, have I seen that? I think
no.
So I'm surprised at that, because we didn't mention that in the first go round on this. But we did talk about Worst Witch.
Yeah.
So that's another franchise or IP that Yeah. I vaguely remember it ish. And I've watched some of it back like during lockdown because it was on one of the streaming things. But even that, you know what my memory's like. I can barely remember last week, let alone years ago, let alone childhood.
I was brought, I mean, they were like the first books I ever read was Worst Witch, and I've still got them all, and I love them. And
see, I am older than you, so some of the first books I read were also witchcraft, but it was Meg and Mog,
which
Meg is before your time.
Yeah,
I think.
I remember Meg and Mog.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't feel quite as old.
But no, I love Worst Witch. I've got them, the characters tattooed up my leg and stuff like that. Like, I just love Worst Witch. But you know, there's obviously huge similarities between Worst Witch and Harry Potter. And at first, you know, when Harry Potter came out, I was like, oh, it's just like Worst Witch.
Allegedly, yes, allegedly a little bit of I'd say perjury, but it's not perjury, is it? Plagiarism.
Yeah.
A little bit of both of these things are quite the same.
It's very, very similar, but you know, you're basing a, you know, it's a child going and learning magic. There's going to be similarities if it's in a school environment. I'll give it that. But because I suppose Harry Potter is so established now that if you were to bring in a Worst Witch remake, then people might start going, oh, it's like Harry Potter. People wouldn't know that it came before.
Oh, I bet they'd call it woke because it's got a female lead. Oh, it's so woke. It's got, you know, must have a female Harry Potter. Yeah, I could see that being an argument.
Yeah.
Is that, do you think that's something that they would bring back? Because obviously, like we've had, as I say, we've had Bewitched, terrible film. There's room in the sort of almost the way the WandaVision redid the sitcoms. There's almost a way in with Bewitched for it to be almost like a Sabrina-y, you know, for it to be a light-hearted comedy series that just happens to be about a witch. So there is scope to bring that in as like sort of family viewing. But I don't know whether studios would sort of go like that, because obviously, like we just mentioned The Craft. Let's not mention the sequel. I mean, oh God, talk about getting an IP wrong. But I could see them doing like The Craft at high school.
Yeah.
Which is effectively just Buffy. But I could see that being an actual thing, like turning The Craft into a series. Mind you, they turned Chucky into a bloody series. And I never would have thought that was possible to turn Chucky into a series. And they've done that successfully. Because they redid Charm. Did you watch any of the remake of Charm?
No.
I mean, it was terrible.
I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Charmed anyway.
No, I could see them doing or trying to resurrect that a third time, and seeing sort of where that goes. I think, you know, after the second reboot or the reboot of it, I think just let it rest now. But I could certainly see a Craft TV series or something like we were talking earlier. I really want to have a Buffy spin-off with Alison Hannigan, like the Willow Tales, where she's now older. She takes on that older crone, sort of mother crone type character, and she imparts witchcraft, and it could be massive, except for Joss Whedon, who owns all the rights and will take all the money and is just persona non grata in Hollywood. Do you think that this Hollywood and TV sort of next wave of witchcraft, do you actually think there will be a massive sort of intake of sort of beginner witches, new young witches?
I think there always is, though. Well, I mean, I was thinking about this recently, like how it doesn't have to be something that's explicitly witchcraft to start up an interest in witchcraft. Like, I was thinking about how, say, the Loki TV series, a lot of people went mad for it, and from that they started getting into Norse mythology and then Norse paganism, and
I can see that link.
So it could just be an element that can spark an interest in witchcraft, rather than it needs to be a film featuring witches, you know, I think. But I think the danger now, I mean, something like Loki in that. I mean, what I always understood about Loki is that he's not a god that you worship. You worship the other gods to keep Loki at bay. And now,
a bit like the Fae.
Yeah, it's a bit like that where, and now a lot of people worshiping Loki. So it's almost like that's their idea of what you should be doing. Like they're kind of they're kind of changing the structure of Norse paganism almost, which I find quite fascinating and a bit kind of. That's almost like the version of going into a physical shop and saying, "Can I have a spell to make the?"
Yeah.
It's almost like they're taking it and kind of twisting it. But I mean, as a chaos magician, who is
that's how I thought you would have liked that sort of thing.
Say who is irreverent as fuck about everything. I can't really go like, "Oh, you're doing that wrong. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that." So in a way, I'm just like, whatever, I guess.
Do your thing.
Yeah, because I think these days there's been a resurgence in pop culture magic. I feel like stuff like, I keep blaming Loki, sorry, Tom Hiddleston, but it's that kind of thing where people are starting to kind of accidentally becoming chaos magicians by seeing witches or deities like depicted in films and then using that as their focus point, So I find that kind of interesting to think about.
You see, I can kind of see that correlation with the idea of Hecate.
Yeah.
Because with social medias, and that's something we haven't touched on, but with the world now being online and chronically online, says somebody who's, got a YouTube channel who is chronically online. I've kind of witnessed this change in the way that Hecate is viewed, because she was always the queen of witches. She was always the one that was like the last resort. She was like, okay, you don't call her for a little, can you hex your neighbor because they piss you off, or can we do a little money working? You like, no. If you believe in the deities and sort of any kind of hierarchy, Hecate was like, okay, we're not going to bother you with these little stuff. And now it's like everybody and their sibling is just going along going, oh yeah, Hecate, well, Hecate joins me in workings and we do this, and I call on Hecate because I want to do really well in my exam this week. And it's like, okay, there's like a myriad of other, and it's almost diminished I guess for me it's diminished the power of Hecate. And it means that I now, not that I ever had a particular, I don't really work with deity. I believe I like Cratchit's idea where witches know the gods exist but they leave them over there. They don't bother believing in them because why would you believe in things that exist? So it's not about belief, it's about, okay, you do your thing and I'm on my own road over here. So I've always liked that. But if I ever do call on a version of a universal power or a deity or a construct like that, it's like I probably wouldn't call on Hecate now, because she seems to be so diminished. She seems to be so lesser of what she was. And this idea that like you had to gain her knowledge and do all of these tasks and enter into all of this, and now it's like, I've got an exam on Tuesday, Hecate. And I'm not dismissing it for people that,
no, because I'm thinking that's almost like you being a hipster about witchcraft.
Almost like I'm a gatekeeper or something. I know.
Oh well, I liked Hecate before she was cool.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But it's less that, and it's more like, because we talk about belief, and I know in chaos magic, like we've spoken about Batman being used for justice, which I think is amazing. If Batman was only seen as the 1960s camp TV show version, would you use that Batman for justice? See, this is it.
Yeah.
And it's like the way that characters are portrayed and the way that people put their belief in it, because I believe very firmly that there is a, like, the more belief we pour into something, the more energy we give it, therefore the more power that thing has. So because there are so many people that have this really like la la la, oh here's Hecate relationship with her, it's completely changed. Like what you used to have, and I'm not somebody who's done workings with Hecate to that extent, but you used to have like this long journey. She was this like really complicated deity to try and work with and to supplicant yourself to. And I remember initially it being like, oh, I can't do all that. I can't call on Hecate because there's like all these steps. And now it's like anyone can call on her just because. Do you know what I mean? It's like that her power has shifted. And whereas she used to be the queen of witches and she used to be like the big boss, now she's someone who people call on for an exam or a lost ring.
This has really opened up something in my mind, because one of my favorite ever films is Hereditary, and it features the poetic demon King Paimon. And after that, because Lorna, who's been on the podcast, who's
shout out to Lorna, hi,
who's very much into working with the Goetia, and she said it was just an influx of people saying, oh, how do I call King Paimon? How can I work with King Paimon? What do I do to like talk to King Paimon? Oh, how do you work with, what? And it was just all that. She just said it was just non-stop, just King Paimon, King Paimon. So then all the kind of practitioners and the people who were working with King Paimon were very like really sick of it, And it wasn't a case of like, I suppose it was a bit gatekeepy, but almost like oh god, here we go, just because he'd been in Hereditary. And of course, when I watched Hereditary, I was kind of mildly interested in Goetia in general, but not to a deep extent. And because of just being a total fanboy of that film, I was like, oh, I'll look into the Goetia and what King Paimon's about. And actually, he's nothing like that.
It's actually based on this.
Yeah. So I kind of went down a deep rabbit hole, and then Lorna kind of taught me about some things, and kind of shared her knowledge, and it ended up being that, well, King Paimon was actually someone I would like to work with, and it just happened to be a bit of a coincidence. And I was like, oh, well, all these people into King Paimon, don't want to be one of these people that all of a sudden are interested because I like Hereditary and all this. And what it was is for, I'd say about 2 years, I kept petitioning and nothing would happen. Like, because with me, I do a lot of kind of, what's the word, lucid dreaming. And I tend to enter into lucid dreaming to kind of do magic. And so a lot of my thing is kind of talking to different entities that I'm working with. And all the time I would go to this certain place in my little mind palace, so to speak, and be thinking, well, maybe one day he'll show up. And there were other demons from the Goetia that showed up and that I worked with. And I was like, well, King Paimon never shows up, like maybe. I mean, I talked to Lon, was like, because it's probably Hereditary. He's probably just like so sick of everyone. He's cut off his like, right,
his access points.
Yeah. So enough.
He's gone off grid.
And then, so it was a couple of years later, and then he did show up, and it was almost like, okay, you put the work in for a couple of years. All right, you're one of them. Okay. So it was almost like because I mean, I kind of joked like, oh, he had to deal with the backlog, but it was almost like, oh no, right, okay, you didn't drop off after like 6 months after when you saw the film or anything like that. So yeah, it just kind of made me think about how I didn't watch Hereditary and went, oh, that's what, you know, Goetic demons are about. That's what King Paymon's about. You have to do this. And I actually went away and did the research. And I think that's, you know, I think people nowadays will, if they're interested in a film or a TV series, they'll probably will go like, oh, what's this actually about? And find out what the deal is. I mean, not everyone, but I mean, I feel like now it's
more accessible. It's easier to do accessible. That for those people that will do that. But again, this is where with Hecate, this is where again it used to be that same thing. You put the work in, and now she grants you, you know, an audience or whatever it is. Whereas the TikTokification of Hecate, and that, you know, the fact that there's people like calling on her, invoking and evoking her with a bloody you know, a 1 minute short video. It kind of, do you see what I mean? It's like it's diminishing that. It's, if people believe that that's all it takes to access her, then the belief that she is this really difficult and sort of, you've got to put their work in to actually reach her, that goes away. And it's all well and good for like the original witches and like those older than us going, oh yes, but actually you've got to put the work in. But if everybody's just watching a quick video and going, oh, I know what Hecate is, it's the same thing. I have seen videos, I wish I'd saved it. I have seen videos, at least 2, where people were calling on Murnau from the entity from the craft that they made up exclusively for that film. There is no name. There is no, like, there was no.
This is it. This is what I'm kind of thinking now in my chaos magic brain, especially when it comes to like the Loki stuff, where obviously people who are going to Loki, the Norse god Loki, but still they are picturing Tom Hiddleston in their mind. So therefore, so many people are doing that. Aren't they creating accidentally the egregore
of Tom Hiddleston's Loki?
But that looks like Tom Hiddleston. And that is who they are worshipping. Plays with a different set of rules than that Loki. So when you talk about Hecate, maybe there's just this. There's the budget one. And then there's the
I like that. I like that. Yeah, there's the Lidl version. It's like what was it? The Cuthbert the Caterpillar cakes and all of that. Like, I like that actually. With the Murnau, whatever it is, from the craft, I quite like that film has created.
Yeah, I like that.
A thought form, an egregore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the fact that there are people who believe that this entity is creating magic or working with magic for them. And again, coming back to Pratchett, it's this idea of, if you don't believe in a god, what is it? The god of small things, small gods.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in them, they wither and die.
Yeah.
And so I like the fact that we are constantly kind of creating and resurrecting old gods in new forms. So I do like that. It's, I guess, so I need to shut up about like people gatekeeping Hecate and just accept that their version is now their version out in the zeitgeist. But then it gets really confusing, because then if you're having a conversation with somebody and you're talking about Loki, right? Are you then talking about, and do we have to then have a conversation about which Loki are we talking about? Because my understanding of Loki is, but then it comes down even deeper. This is why I like these conversations. So normally we used to have these conversations at 4 or 5 in the morning with a bottle of wine or vodka or whatever it was. Is that any different than worshipping any deity or energy form or whatever you call it, entity, because your understanding of any of them is going to be different to my understanding of any of them? So even if like, again, we'll use Loki, even if like pre-Marvel, Loki was a thing, we could both be worshipping the same, in theory, the same Norse god Loki, but you would come at it from a slightly different perspective to me. And because there isn't like the Church of Loki where we all sing from the same hymn sheet and worship the same book, it means that all of us, every single pagan magical practitioner, witch, wizard, whatever you want to call us, every single one is effectively working with, it's almost like a multiverse of deity, entity, thought form, egregore, whatever you want to call it. Like, they're all different.
Yeah.
You're never going to have that same one. So then does it even matter?
I will controversially say no, it does not matter.
I don't think that's controversial. I think
however,
I think it's controversial to the Christians. I think if you said that to a Christian, that actually you're all worshipping your own interpretation of the book, of the God that's written down in that one book, I think Christians would get offended. But I think for people that are...
I think it's more if you've got a very set view of the way something should be practiced. I think people would get offended at the idea of I'm seeing and experiencing this deity completely different from what has been in the books for hundreds of years. I think it would be, people might get precious in that way.
Yeah, and I could see that almost being valid, where somebody would say, well, in all of known magical teachings, Loki has always been this, has never once been that, and you have an experience of that. Well, then that's not the true Loki. But then you get back into this idea of the one true God or the one true Loki, and then it's like it becomes pseudo Christianity again. Yeah,
but it's interesting to think about.
It is, and I think, again, hopefully more magical practitioners that go and watch Wicked will be having conversations like this 30 years after meeting and becoming friends. Do you know what I mean? But I do think, again, for me, this is one of the reasons why getting too hung up on which deity to call for which ritual and for which whatever, it's like we once coined the phrase post-pagan, because pagans tend to work with deity or some form of entity and have a belief that corresponds, and yet, like, I don't, because it's like the gods are over there, and okay, and some of you call that one Mars, and others call it Aries, and others call it whatever. And great, hope you're doing well. If I need you, I know I can call on your energy, but actually I'm quite happy in my own little lane over here, thanks. It is that sort of, it's the post-pagan witchcraft. I do like this idea. Like, I wonder if you could do a justice working using 60s Batman.
I think if you was to say,
as long as it doesn't involve a bomb or a shark whilst you're on a helicopter with the bat shark repellent.
If he's still solving crimes.
Well, this is it. Do you think the fundamental basis of, like, the bones of Batman's need for justice, like, is that enough that even if you had it in the sort of the pink and the garish, the brown, the pink, the orange, the yellow, like the rainbow Batman suits and outfits, does that still work?
I think so.
As a deity.
Yeah, because he's just, Batman is always just about justice. He's about catching the bad guy. It's not like, Adam West version of Batman. He wasn't just, I don't know. He was still catching bad guys. It's an
interesting thought experiment.
But, yeah. I mean, just Batman's established enough where you would, even if you change Batman and his total personality and you ran that for 100 years, there would still be people very rooted in the original, what he stands for, Batman. People would have invested so much in that.
There's so much core belief.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
it'd be interesting to see whether something like Wicked, to come back to what we're sort of vaguely talking about, it'd be interesting to see whether this idea of a wicked witch being dressed in black and green skinned, and a good witch being blonde and in pink, whether that shifts in the zeitgeist again. Do you know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see whether generations coming up will actually say, oh no, good witches now wear this.
Yeah.
You know, are pink. Because it used to be you were a white witch or a black witch, or you know what I mean? So I'm wondering whether they're going to see that, because it is so starkly visual in Wicked, whether they're going to see that as a differentiation.
Change the narrative of it.
I've got no idea how to end this now. Have you?
No. I think we've kind of gone around the houses of,
we have a little bit, yeah.
Like, what we've gone from, like, will certain films bring witchcraft a resurgence?
All the way through to thought experiments about pink versions of Batman.
Well, it's kind of been more about a conversation of, like, how witchcraft in the media can impact how people think about witchcraft in general, really.
But I think that's always been the case.
Yeah.
Because if you think back to, like, I say when you think back, we weren't alive, but like in the 60s when Sybil Leek moved to the States and was doing all of the chat shows, as you know, she is a witch, and she very much kind of didn't wear the pointy hat. It was very much hat for the sky, but she very much was in the cloak, and sometimes, you know, would have photos with the Raven, Mr. Jackdaw, and all of that. So she was very much not quite the stereotypical image of a witch, but was still very much the stereotypical image of a witch. So I do honestly think that the mass media has changed witchcraft and always will change witchcraft. And as the media develops, and as we get more and more like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Reels and all of that, as that shifts, I think people are much more aware now of incense and candles and you know, using those for ritualistic purposes.
I think just in general, I think when witchcraft is in the media and people are, you know, kind of learn about some facets of it, I think it's good for it in any form to be in the media, because it opens up a narrative, I think, and it makes us consider our perspectives on it. And even if you practice or not, it kind of gives you stuff to think about and look into. And so I think it how you say, you just kind of have reservations about it potentially, you know, having some, open up some dodgy areas. When I think it's pretty good, because then you kind of get people chatting about, you know, about stuff. So you know, people kind of I do like how witchcraft in the media kind of makes you shift your own perspective on certain things. So yeah, I enjoy it being there, really.
One thing I have seen is a lot of Bible thumping T-evangelists. I've seen quite a few of them already jumping on the Agatha is promoting evil, Wicked is promoting demonology and witchcraft, and you should, if your child wants to go into Wicked, you should ban them from reading it. Don't ever take them to see it, and you should take them to church forcibly if you have to, make them accept the word of God and all of this. I've already seen videos like that. Luckily, I know it's creating a bit of an echo chamber, but luckily I do say I do hit my 3 little dots and go, do not show me this, because it's like I just can't be bothered with that energy in my life.
Yeah.
But I have already seen that kickback starting to happen. So I do wonder, like, maybe we need to pick this conversation up at the end of 2025 or 2026 when the other films come out and everything else, and look back on this, because I do wonder whether we're going to head towards another satanic panic type situation. Do you know what I mean?
The thing is like, I think I've mentioned before about how I follow a social media account called Christian Nightmares, and which shows a lot of things like that, where it'll show satanic panic stuff every single day. So it's always there. It's just that you'll see stuff to do with obviously what is popular in this moment. You'll see their reactions to it. But the thing is, it is always there, no matter, like, even if there's no hint of witchcraft in something, they will find something. So it's just an ongoing thing. It's just that around this time period, the algorithm gets you and it'll show you that stuff just because it's related to that. It's almost like they're trying to hit the hot topic of the time just so they can get a message out there. So I feel like satanic panic it's never gone away.
No,
it's never gone away. It's always there. So it's always ridiculous.
Yeah,
so it'll always be there.
It is. I just feel sorry for the kids who are walking into a ... big large shop, because everything seems to have a collab with Wicked at the moment. And they're walking in and they're seeing these lovely little dolls and sparkly dresses and this, that, and the other, and they're going to be pulled away from them by parents going, no, that is evil. And it's like, look, it's even called Wicked. So do you know what I mean? I hate to see these kids
it'll make it's more exciting for them then.
I know. Then in a couple of years' time, they will be coming into the craft going, oh, even though this was the do-over, we've talked about very different subjects this time around. And we are now at nearly an hour. So I think it is probably time to draw this to a close. Let us know your thoughts, not just about Wicked and Agatha and whether Neil should absolutely be made on like tied to a chair and made to watch the Wicked musical, and whether I should just bombard his feed with clips from Popular, you're gonna be popular, toss, whether I need to I've got no idea what that is, do you?
No.
I've heard it said. No, we're not doing any of that. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Where do you think magic is going? Where do you think witchcraft is headed? Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section. We're hoping to get another episode out before the end of the year. We're hoping. And then for 2025, we're already talking about actually getting a regular schedule. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be back to a once a month at least schedule for 2025 and beyond. So then, anything you want to add? We should really plug. Look at this. This has been sat here the whole time. My parents' video rental logbook. Do you know, when I saw this cover, I immediately went, that's a Lion brand. I bet that's blue paper. Because I was like, we had these. I'm sure I wrote letters. My dad was in the Navy, and I'm sure I wrote letters to my dad on one of these notepads. Did it open that way? Or was it? Oh, because in the middle, I've just realized I've not told you or what it is. So this is a zine, right? Neil publishes Necronomicon. Check there, and you know I've talked about it for a long time. Necronomicon is, well, you say what Necronomicon is.
It's a fanzine about horror films from the kind of VHS era. So you've got horror films from the 70s, 80s, 90s that are mainly all the low budget, bottom shelf, straight to video horror films that have been kind of forgotten about. So yeah, I like to kind of go back in time to my memories of video rental days, kind of rewatch and review all the films that have kind of fallen through the cracks when it came to the kind of become lost media. So I like to kind of go like, look, no one watches these types of films anymore. People should be watching them. They bring me so much joy. So I want people to read the fanzine and go, oh, that sounds quite interesting. That film, never heard of it. In 2010, I was clearing out my mum's cupboard before she moved, and I found this old notebook, which looks like that. And we suddenly remembered that my mum and dad kept a logbook of every single video that they rented out from the video shop, listed every single one that they ever rented out, and they put a rating next to each name. So when I discovered this book was when I was already doing necro, and I thought a good idea would be to go through the book, find every horror film off of it, watch it and review it using their rating system. And I did this throughout necro, but then recently I'm getting to the end of the list now, and so I'm starting to compile all the reviews that I've done. In the logbook, is it just horror, or is it? It's loads of different types.
So there'd be like Die Hard and Tootsie and all sorts of random videos like that.
Literally, yeah.
Wow. Because it was like, I was like, they can't just have rented, like,
no.
I know you like horror, and I know your parents obviously watched a lot of horror, but they can't just have rented that, surely.
There's nearly 900 films listed in that logbook.
Wow.
214 horror films.
Wow.
So
wow, that's really...
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it?
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I'm covering 214 horror films.
Cool. And you can buy this. I'll put the link on screen, and also it'll be linked down below. I love it, because not only is this like, obviously you're one of my oldest friends, I've known you forever, and this just is like your voice throughout it. But I also love the fact that it is like, it's a piece of nostalgia from an era that I do remember going along to my local. It wasn't a Blockbuster, it was a, little independent-y rat-hole sort of video shop. So I remember all of those covers, and I remember the videos, and I remember looking and kind of going, oh, this is a bright, gary thing, and do I want that, and do I want this? So for me, it takes me back to those times. But I also love the fact that it's like, it's a weird way for you to connect to your parents at that time, whilst also embracing the films that they obviously watched, and some of them they weren't really keen on, and some of them they loved. And I just think it's such a piece of nostalgia porn, if you like, that for me and my little ADHD, it just gives me a massive dopamine. And then there's things, I always bring it back to Halloween too, because it's just the way you describe Loomis as a nutter. And it's like, as a mental, it's like, he's a mental. And I'm like, that's absolutely perfect. It's non-PC. It is absolutely, but of the time and of the era, yes, that is exactly what people would have said about him. He's a mental in this film. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So I will, again, put the links for this down below. And also for Necronomicon, I thoroughly recommend it. Do you know what I really like about this? Not only is the fact that you've kept up with it, but there was a time where you had other writers, and you've gone back and kind of got rid of all of their reviews and re-reviewed everything, and it is now just Necro Neil's Necronomicon. And I love that. I absolutely adore it. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend it. And also, all of the mods that have bought copies have also like raved about it as much as I do. So it's not just because I'm a friend. But anyway, I will put links to that down below. I'll put links to the Witches Road down below, the website that is slowly coming together, and we'll have lots of witchy content on there. It's got loads of PDFs at the moment. I'm still working on updating all of that. There's loads of videos to come. I've scripted. I know. You've known me how long? 20 plus years. When have I ever written a script? Never. Like, literally, the notes we have for this podcast episode are there. Like, that's the notes.
Well, we didn't know we were going to be doing it. So.
No, we didn't, to be fair. But I've scripted videos to go up relating to Witches Road, and I'm very it's going to be my little passion project for next year, so that will all be linked down below as well. But from us, we're going to call it a day there, and I've got to say, as we always say, do you remember? I say keep practicing,
keep experimenting,
and we'll definitely see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Oh, spooky hands. Oh, let's hope I actually managed to hit the record button on this one.
Imagine.
Please. There we go. Done. End recording.